I was just giving everyone just a couple more minutes to trickle in because it's raining pretty hard out there, which is awesome. So we'll start in just a minute. Good morning. Thank you everyone for coming. It's an incredible day because it's raining outside, which is something we are not seeing a lot of lately. So it's a blessing for sure. We will go ahead and get started. It's June 25th of 2026, and this is a special meeting for the Goshen County School District. One thing I would ask after we say the Pledge of Allegiance is if every board member could reach up and turn on their microphone and not touch it for the rest of the week, the meeting, please. We're having some difficulties on YouTube with people hearing, and it's the direct result of board members not turning on their microphones. So I will ask that you do that after the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And with that, we will say the pledge. I don't know if everyone can hear it, but it sounds like it's flooding. It's fantastic in the building. If we could see green lights on microphones, that would be wonderful. Everybody up and running? Trustee Strampies is not operating.
Yeah.
At a time? Okay.
Every other person. Pretty good about remembering to hit my button, so
I think you are as well, Trustee Goulart. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We good with that, Mike? Awesome. Okay. All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Kramer, I'm assuming there are no additions or amendments?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Any discussion or questions on the agenda? All of those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. We will start off with public comment. I apologize, that was an oversight on my part and not initially putting that on the agenda with the special meeting. But we did add it in time to comply with the rules. So Ms. Cottrell, take your time. I understand you would like to speak as well. Anyone else, if you have not submitted a form, please feel free to do so. In the meantime, 5-minute time limit. Please be respectful, no curse words, and do not use any specific names of companies or individuals if you would please. First up is Brent Anderson. Mr. Anderson.
Hello, Brent Anderson from the Yoder Fire District, also running.
Just one moment, Mr. Anderson. I don't know that your mic's on or you've got to speak over the rain, which is,
Hello.
There you go.
Maybe I wasn't one of the 8. I'm Brent Anderson. I'm the president of the Yoder Fire District. I was here previously and had concerns about air quality. I want to give some updates. On June 15th, Nancy Beer from the EQ called in response to a letter sent from the Yoder Fire Protection District. She spent over 50 minutes on the phone with me explaining EPA air quality regulations and the step-by-step processes that the Wyoming DEQ has to follow when following up on complaints and concerns. She also sent me a a bunch of information and links to websites, which turned into hundreds and hundreds of pages. On Monday, June 22nd, Wyoming DEQ visited Yoder. Their meeting was set with the mayor of Yoder, and he invited several community members, including myself, to come to that meeting. We met for approximately 3 hours. There was a lot of information provided and frank questions were asked. I greatly appreciate the candor of the DEQ and their willingness to have an open dialogue. The back and forth conversation, I feel, was honest and solution focused. I'd like to share some key takeaways from the information I've gathered thus far. Number one, I appreciate the DEQ's response and the breadth of information provided. I've been reviewing and digesting hundreds of pages of available on the subject matter, both printed and online. I perceive that the employees at DEQ have been sincere in their efforts to educate us and be transparent as they possibly can be. It is a complex process. Their job that they have at hand, and they have to follow a lot of mandated rules and regulations. Ms. Veer stated during the discussion on Monday that the sensors currently recording data in Yoder, and they have added new ones, are unlikely to meet the burden of proof necessary to pursue a violation should one be suspected. The current sensors deployed could theoretically alert to a problem, which in turn could justify them moving more expensive equipment into the area. All involved in Monday's meeting seem to agree that we have a serious public relations and public trust problem. It was suggested that this can only be addressed with greater public involvement in a large public question and answer forum where community members can attend and have their questions and concerns addressed. I hope that happens. I'd also like to share some personal observations and opinions, and please know that these are my opinions and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the fire district. The amount of information provided by the DEQ is appreciated, but honestly, it also amounts to information overload. I happen to really enjoy researching complex issues and have a lot of experience sorting through mountains of information. In doing so, I believe I've discovered there's a whole lot of room within the regulations built in the official policies and procedures for plausible deniability on the part of a company. And that's not a criticism of the DEQ office staff. It's just an observation of the procedures they are forced to use and work from. And going to the analogy of a court case, for example, a person could equally argue that the policies and procedures are designed to allow companies to operate with a presumption of innocence. And I think that's a good and just way for a government entity to operate, and I can't argue with that. Presumption of innocence is a good thing, but we must also be honest that the more complex policies and procedures are, and these certainly appear to be complex, the greater opportunity exists for a company to claim plausible deniability if indeed there are issues. If we take a step back from the legalities involved, there's another perspective to consider. The anecdotal and circumstantial evidence from citizens is pretty strong. We need to realize that just because something is legal or meets the basic regulatory guidelines does not necessarily mean it is safe or healthy. An example, in the 1990s, opioids were widely deemed safe and non-addictive for chronic pain. Then in the early 2000s, the opioid epidemic emerged. Even though the warning signs and circumstantial evidence were there, the government didn't declare a public health crisis and change their guidelines until 2016. And even then, the scope wasn't firmly realized. When Yoder citizens say things like, look at the dust on my car, it's there every morning. Look at the pits in my windshield. Look at the paint peeling off of my house. I have to stop.
If you could wrap it up, that'd be great, Mr.
I'm
Anderson.
almost done. And when they say, look at these videos of dust filling the air at night during the day and at a football game, and look at the dust filling the HVAC filters at the school, blowing under the doors of the fire hall. These are things that can't be ignored. Is it circumstantial evidence? Yes, it is. But is it concerning to parents and teachers and citizens? And the answer to that is also a big and resounding yes. I'd leave you with this thought. Just because a wrong is not proven does not mean there's nothing wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next is Rebecca Cohorn. Ms. Cohorn?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. Today, I'd like to address 4 things. I will be addressing the YouTube version of the meeting, the life insurance statement, the WSBA agenda item, and the actions of the board following that vote. First, the YouTube version of the meeting. It is very difficult to know what is happening when there's no sound. This was addressed at the beginning of the meeting, but the expensive microphones placed in front of you are not there for the people in this room. They are there for the people watching at home. So please, right now, write yourself a note to turn them on before you speak. Again, please. The second thing I will speak about is the life insurance exaggeration. The WSBA claims that if a county drops its dues, district staff and their spouses could lose their life insurance benefits. The truth is, the insurance policy is an independent certificate of coverage with a private provider. WSBA acts as a middleman or aggregator to get group rates. The school district is a massive employer, and Goshen County #1 has the institutional weight to secure its own benefits packages, buy into alternative state level plans, or contract directly with insurance brokers without paying the $15,000 annual political ransom to the WSBA. Claiming that dropping a board level association membership will automatically strip teachers' spouses of life insurance is a scare tactic designed to manipulate the board. Our teachers' benefits shouldn't be used as a cudgel to bash board members into a decision that doesn't align with their conscience. The third thing I'd like to talk about is the WSBA and its subsequent appearance at this meeting. According to Robert's Rules of Order, a defeated motion cannot be renewed within the same session. Furthermore, a motion to reconsider can only be made by a member of the prevailing side. Has that occurred? Perhaps you're hoping that the lineup of public members that has been put together to badger, berate, and spew emotional diarrhea instead of facts will somehow change the minds of someone on the prevailing side. Now, I know you're going to say that you don't follow Robert's rules, that you follow a modified version. I know this because you've said it before. Just what is the modified version and where can I find it? How does the public know if and when you're following this version? I suspect the public does not have access to this modified version. This violates open meeting laws. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can blatantly violate Robert's rules to bring the WSBA motion forward. You can break the law by pretending there is a rule in the modified version to re-vote on a defeated motion, or you can let the vote stand. Which flavor would you like? Finally, a personal grievance. At the last regular board meeting, a vote was taken on an agenda item. The outcome was unexpected by some. A particular trustee began verbally attacking another trustee. This is a pattern of behavior we have witnessed on other votes. Whether following board governing norms, Robert's rules, or even the modified version, it is the duty of the board chair to maintain order. Verbal attacks at any time during a meeting by anyone is not a point of order. Not only did the chairperson fail in this duty, appallingly, the chair joined the attack. To help everyone, please allow me an analogy. Sometimes in a game of football or volleyball or even wrestling, your team loses. An educated woman, a real man, knows how to lose with grace instead of stomping their feet and holding their breath. As a parent and a constituent, I am embarrassed and disgusted by your behavior. Good day.
Ms. Saucedo.
Can you hear me? I probably don't need the mic.
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
I've never been told that that I'm not being heard. So, so I have typed this and like within 30 seconds. So I need to read it word for word and not digress. So I apologize for that. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I am here as a private citizen of Goshen County, the mother of 7 children who were educated in the excellent Goshen County School District over the past 30 years, and the grandmother of 4 children who currently attend Goshen County schools. Risk factor. Any attribute, characteristic, condition, exposure, or behavior that increases the likelihood of developing a negative outcome, such as food insecurity. Protective factor. Any attribute, characteristic, condition, exposure, or behavior that helps buffer individuals and families from stress, trauma, and negative life outcomes. Example, access for everyone to healthy food options. Food insecurity. Low food insecurity, reduced quality, variety, or desirability of diet. Very low food insecurity, evidence of disrupted eating patterns and reduced food intake. The term food insecure encompasses both of these categories. Individual resilience, the ability to mentally and emotionally adapt to adversity, trauma, or significant stress. Community resilience, a community's sustained ability to prepare for, withstand, adapt to, and recover from adversity. Incidentally, toxic stress can develop after 20 minutes of a sustained stressor, such as worry. Research on ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, shows that ongoing exposure to significant stress can place children and adults in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. While this stress becomes chronic, it goes undetected, it can alter brain development and contribute to both short-term and long-term health challenges, including mental health concerns, chronic disease, and difficulties with learning and relationships. Here's what we know from looking at the data. Food insecurity severely impacts students at all educational levels, leading to lower GPAs, higher dropout rates, and significant mental health challenges. Driven by the constant stress of not knowing where their next meal will come from, students face diminished cognitive function and increased social isolation. Poor nutrition can undermine children's school readiness, which can be a predictor of academic success in the future. It's not just young children who are affected when they don't have enough to eat. The impact of food insecurity can follow a child for years. Children who lack consistent access to nutritious food are more likely to struggle socially, have difficulty getting along with others, and face challenges in school, including a greater likelihood of repeating a grade. Not only does food insecurity translate to lower math and reading scores, it can also lead to more absences and tardiness. In fact, food insecure students are less likely to graduate from high school. There are school-related emotional and social setbacks when a child doesn't have enough to eat. School is more than just reading and writing. It's a time for social growth and development. Students who are food insecure have a harder time making friends and forming bonds. By the time they are teenagers, food insecure children are twice as likely than their peers to have been suspended. Food insecure children and teenagers have been shown to miss school more frequently and are more likely to repeat a grade than food secure children. There are many factors that contribute to food insecurity, and almost none of them are the responsibility of the children who experience it. Families throughout our community are facing rising grocery and fuel costs. In a county where agriculture is a cornerstone of our economy and a way of life, many of our producers, if not all, are facing significant challenges of their own. If these challenges persist, the outlook for next year is even more concerning. For those who may not be directly involved in agriculture, it can be easy to assume these issues do not affect them. However, in Goshen County, the health and stability of our ag community impacts all of us. When agriculture struggles, the effects ripple throughout our local economy, our schools, our businesses, and ultimately the well-being of our families and children. If we revisit the definitions of risk and protective factors that I talked about at the beginning, we must ask ourselves, will providing free breakfast and lunch immediately solve every challenge these students face? Absolutely not. However, the more important question is, are we tipping the scales towards greater risk or greater protective factors? Are we strengthening community resilience if we fail to support one of the most basic human needs? According to the Family and Childhood Wellbeing Report from the Wyoming Community Foundation and WISAC, over 30% of Goshen County students experience food insecurity. That means nearly 1 in every 4 students lacks consistent access to adequate food compared to the statewide average of 1 in 5. Goshen County, 1 in 4. Think about that for a moment. Picture a room full of children. Ask 4 of them to stand. Statistically, 1 of these 4 children may be experiencing food insecurity. Question before us is simple. Which child are we willing to leave behind? Which child are we willing to not feed? Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Cottrell.
Good morning. I am also like Lynette, but I will articulate clearly with the microphone. It just occurred. Playing with toys I don't know how to run. Right. Well, actually, I stand in front of a classroom every day and I never use a mic and people can hear me fine. So I think it'd be okay.
Probably a reason they don't give you one. I'm just
Well,
saying.
there is, because everyone else down the hallway would hear me as well. So if you don't know me, my name is Emily Cottrell. I teach at Legal Fort Laramie. I also teach adjunct for Eastern Wyoming College. I coach. I am the new activities director at LFL. And I also am the proud parent of 4 children. 1 who's graduated from the district and has a very successful career. And then a large gap and 3 smaller children. 2 are going to be in middle school and 1 in elementary, which is kind of freaky to say, but here I am. So I'm here to address a couple issues. 2 of them I find to be very personal, not only personal for me, but personal for the students that I serve, the parents that I serve in the community, and that is the food, the free breakfast and lunch. One concern I have is I thought that this was already passed through the board budget meeting when we passed the board that the money was allocated for this. So that's just a question I have that I know you can't respond to, but if I'm not here in person, I'm always watching. So that was just one thing that I didn't realize that we were discussing this or it was coming back up because we had already passed that agenda item in the budget. The other concern I have is I personally have 3 kids who participate in the breakfast and lunch program. All 3 of my children eat breakfast. The kids in my classroom first period all get a breakfast. And so I see the 200 and some kids from LFL that are participating in this program, and that's one small school in this district. I also have the opportunity to do middle school lunch duty every day, which means I sit and eat lunch with middle schoolers and then take them out to recess when they're done. And when I first started doing lunch duty many years ago, and I've been in the district since 2003, the meals looked different, the price looked different, the economy looked different. And then when we started charging for lunch, you started seeing kids not eating school lunch, but maybe a cup of noodle. And so if we're talking about nutritional value, I don't know about you, but there's about probably 3 grams of protein. I didn't look that up, so please don't quote that in one of those cups of noodles. But when you have a kid that comes to school, some of them are there at 7:15. Some of them come at 7:30, 7:45, and occasionally you have the 8:05 roll in, right? But you have kids that come to school and then a lot of them go to the after school program or they go to practice after school and they don't have the opportunity to have a lunch or a breakfast. Those kids aren't performing well. And I'm not talking about test scores or whatever. I'm just talking as a functioning human being, their bodies are not getting the caloric intake they need to sustain an entire day. And one of the things we saw, which other people will give statistics, is that when we offered free breakfast and lunch, our kids started eating. And they started eating because it was available and they didn't have to go through line and be told they didn't have enough money on their lunch account. You didn't have teachers who watched the kid get rejected from lunch because they didn't have enough money or they were in debt, going and getting their purse and paying for a student to eat lunch. That is the reality of what's happening in our schools. I worked summer school when we had it for many years, elementary at both Trail and Lincoln, middle school, Torrington High School. I have seen the gamut of it. And I'm telling you, this is our food insecurity and the ability to have free breakfast and lunch at school is something that is a game changer for these kids. High school kids eat lunch in my classroom every day. Some days stop in and see it. They all go over and get a grab and go lunch and eat that lunch and then usually have something else. They need the food. So I would really, really consider that if this is something that in the future we don't want to do, we don't wait until a month before school starts and parents need to plan to make that decision. This needs to be a conversation that starts in August or September, and so that families can be prepared. A June 30th deadline really drops it. I know my husband and I both work for the district, and I know that this would be a financial burden for us to pay for lunch and breakfast for 3 children every day. So I can't imagine what people do that don't have the same source of income that we have. My second little area, which Ms. Coburn brought up, is the WSBA contract. I am one of those people that get life insurance. My husband gets life insurance through them. We have 4 children. If something, God forbid, were to happen to one of us, we are counting on that to help them and the people that will raise them when we are not there. That's something very personal to us. And if the district were to choose to go away from that, I would question what alternative are you going to provide for us to be able to have the same benefit? Because this was a benefit that we are counting on. The other fact is I sit on many committees, serve on many teams, volunteer my time, and all we ever hear is the surplus of elementary teachers, but secondary teachers are really, really hard to find. We have looked for a secondary, can I just finish this thought?
You may.
Secondary science teachers, school psychologists, we advertise, we put bonuses out there. WSBA is the way we nationally advertise. $15,000 for advertising and health insurance, I'm sorry, it's a drop in the bucket, quite honestly. And when we have a teacher shortage and we're looking for good qualified teachers, sometimes we have to go outside of the state or at the tri-state because we do not have those people. Principals are going to conferences and these people do not exist. We have to find them somewhere. So please reconsider that those factors alone are huge in this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all those that participated in public comment. We will now move on to the tabled motion, which is to consider the approval of maintaining district community eligibility provision status for the 26-27 school year. Is Ms. Moody going to be presenting, or Ms. Cates? There she is. You were hiding in the back. I didn't see you back there. Ms. Moody, I understand that you've got some information you would like to present on this topic.
Yes,
You're good. I don't think I've ever been in here when it's rained like this. Like, it sounds incredible. I hope it's coming down as much as it sounds like.
I was asked to come and speak about community eligibility provision, which is the program that we're currently participating in. CEP is, as a district, we've decided to opt in district-wide. So if you go to the second slide. Not going?
Yep, you're good. A little delayed, but you're good.
Okay, so this is the different years. So the first one is 2026 school year ISP. If you notice on that, it goes by each. And at the bottom, it tells you what your total is. Currently, right now, as a district, we opted in for the during the 2024-2025 school year is where our rate is at. So what the identified student percentage is, it's based off of your direct certs, which are going to be your SNAP, your different benefits. And so those come into the system and they determine what your ISP is. Then you take if you go down to the bottom here, it tells you your percentage of meals claimed at the free rate equals your ISP. So that's your identified student percentage times 1.6. And then that's how they determine what your free and reduced or your free and your paid meals would be. So if you notice that there are some changes each year, we currently are locked in for that 2024-2025 rate. If you notice that down there, our ISP is 32.6%. So that's why that one's bigger on that. I know you guys asked some questions about what the ISP is. So that's basically, like I said, it comes off your direct certifications and those are your SNAP benefits, your different types of benefits. And then like those are multiplied times 1.6 to determine your free rate. Everything else comes in as the paid rate when we're doing that. Any questions on ISP?
And just to be clear, the board has her slide in front of you in your packet.
The second slide talks about student meals served for comparison. You'll notice for the 2025-2026 school year, we served a total of 231,232 meals. If you go to the far right column on there, the school year 2023-2024, we were serving 173,360 meals. So you can see the increase when we've done it. There have been some changes in enrollment. Some of the schools I have seen this last year, participation increase or decrease slightly, but a lot of it I've noticed is based on enrollment at that particular school. Some schools had higher enrollment, some had lower enrollment based on that. Marcy was able to provide us, if you notice the bottom one down here, she was able to provide us what the transfers were. So if you go back to the fiscal year 2019-2020, the transfer to the food service program was 200,000. If you notice then moving on 2020 to 2021 and those years, the transfer was less. But what happened during that time was COVID hit. Things totally changed and the way that reimbursement and meals happened changed. Fiscal year 2022-23, there was no need for it. And then 2023-2024, there was a $50,000 transfer that is because there was still money remaining from previous years on that. So that's where that's coming from. If you notice 2024-2025, that's when our transfer jumped up, but that was the first year that we did CEP. And then the last one would be this year. So any questions on any of on that data? The next slide talks about severe need and national school breakfast programs. So we do have quite a few schools in the district that do have a severe need. So in the school breakfast program, severe need refers to higher reimbursement rate for schools that serve a high proportion of free or reduced meals under the National School Lunch Program. That's the general definition for it. For a CEP school, it is eligible for severe need school breakfast program reimbursement if in the second preceding year, or there's 2 years delayed, the individual ISP times 1.6 is greater than 40. So there is a delay on that. So, but we do have schools that will definitely be on severe need remaining on that. So this is an actual reimbursement from the state. If you go down there, you can see that there is a severe need and that we are receiving a severe need each month back from the state. I just kind of put this in there because one thing that is inflation from 2019 to 2026, the CPI has risen about 28%, meaning prices are roughly 1.3 times higher than in 2019. I did take a few generic items for cost comparison on there, just some items that we do serve in the school meal program. One such thing is orange juice, and in the school year 2019-2020, it was $9.83. This last school year, it would have been $13.68. Chocolate milk, you can see the substantial jump from $14.91 to $22.36. Detergent for a 5-gallon container back in 2019, when I pulled an old invoice, we were paying $85.96. Now, at current rates, we're paying $219.86 for detergent that's recommended for our dishwasher. The beef fine grind raw is a commodity item. We do get lots of commodity ground beef in every year. That is if you notice, this substantial jump of $104.76 during that first school year. Down now, the 2026-2027 is $202.83. However, I was just recently at the WFNA meeting. The state was talking about, obviously that's the rate that when I was doing my order for the year, that's the rate that I'm locked in at. Beef prices could escalate, we would be paying at a higher rate than that potentially as well, which would mean maybe potentially less commodity elsewhere. And then one thing else I wanted to just point out is employee costs. The starting hourly rate per hour back in 2019, 2020 was $11.17 per an employee, per hour for an employee. And the school year 26-27, it has been increased to $19.03 through salary relations. So those are some factors on things that increased costs that I'm seeing in my department. These are just a few of the many items that we see every day. Are there any questions on CEP? Because my last slide is more specific to summer food service program.
Yes, trustee Alexander.
Yeah, I have a question. This was brought to my attention by a staff member, is like, to ask about the increase in food waste, with all the free lunches, because it was brought to my attention that some of the kids are required to take lunch even if they don't want it or don't like it or whatever. And so they're required to take that lunch for account, but they just take it directly to the garbage and dump it and walk away.
We do not have 100% participation at any school on any given day. So there's, from my understanding, there's not any school where they're being required to take a meal. I mean, I actually have the participation at each school written down, but there's from my understanding, there's not any force.
So I was just wondering, do we have, with all this documentation and everything, do we have the difference of the waste that the increase in waste since everybody is taking it compared to before?
I don't know that I would have any way of saying that there's a specific increase in waste for stuff. I mean,
Ms. Moody, if I could, I don't know if any of the board members had an opportunity to watch the recalibration meeting yesterday with the recal committee, but this was an issue that did come up. First of all, trustee Alexander, she said not everyone is taking it. So it's not everyone taking a meal. There are problems across the state with waste, right? You've got kids who are in charge of what they eat and what they don't eat at those times. And so waste has become an issue. Teton County is doing a share table, which I thought was a pretty great idea.
we do share tables at all of our locations.
That's fantastic. So basically you take whatever food is not being consumed because it can't go back into the kitchen, right? And so they put it on a table and kids throughout the day or right before they go home at night can grab food as they wish and put it in their backpacks and take it home. That's a fantastic use of those products.
Yes, each of our locations do have a share table. So the way that the National School Lunch Program works in each of our schools are on a program called Offer versus Serve. So basically we have to offer all 5 components of the meal, which would be your milk, your protein, your grain, your fruit, and your vegetable. The kids are required for it to be a reimbursable meal to take 3 of the 5. They do not have to take all 5 components for it to be a reimbursable meal. So they do not have to take a milk. They don't have to take, if they take a fruit, they don't have to take a vegetable. They do have, the only requirement there is they do have to take at least a half of a cup of fruit or vegetable each day. So that is the one requirement that they have to take. And then the other components they can take. So that does help eliminate food waste. That's part of the reason that that program is implemented, is so that we can eliminate food waste that direction. But if a kid does not want to take something that they were given, there is a share table at most locations, I think all locations, and they are able to offer, they are able to like put their milk, say they did take a milk and then they didn't drink it, they can put that on the share table so that other kids can take it later. Or if they took a whole grain chip option and didn't eat it, they can put the whole grain chip option on there. Now, anything that's potentially hazardous or anything like that will get discarded at the end of the lunch period, just so that there's no problems with that stuff. But yes, there is a share table at each location.
Ms. Moody, before you move on to the summer program too, I was going to mention another thing that they were discussing yesterday during recalibration was Teton County actually mentioned that they have transferred an average of 600 to 650,000. So we're below that,
Yes.
at least, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Kramer, if I understand, every time you give this report, the superintendent's report, there has been a decrease in our EDM over the years, correct?
That's correct.
So to state that we went from 173,000 meals in 23-24 to 231,000 is a significant increase.
Correct.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anyone else have any other questions on the CEP before we move on to the summer program?
And Madam Chair, I do have a question. And forgive me if maybe this is more a question for Marcy, but I'll put the question out there. So you mentioned direct certification, which is directly related to ISP. Does it work that if we were to go back to free reduced lunch under what we're allowed to do with direct certification, the same children that currently are counted for ISP wouldn't, even under free reduced, because of direct certification, there wouldn't be an application process or an application at all for them. They would be covered just because they're already, direct certification would take care of that. Am I saying that correctly? Is that true? Or
If they're captured in the, if you want to.
Madam Chair, Trustee Goulart, direct certification does work whether we are on CEP or if we're serving through the school lunch program with the free and reduced rates. Direct certification are those students who through DFS were receiving their information through the state nutrition program to the districts. Those are the students on SNAP, foster, Medicaid free, or Medicaid reduced. The ISP are strictly those students that are on free direct certification. The ISP is multiplied times 1.6%, and that gets us our reimbursement rate. If you look at our reimbursement rate, and I find this kind of interesting, if I go back, our reimbursement rate right now for 25-26, $4.60 is what we get for 52% of the meals served. That's based upon our ISP times 1.6. At $4.60 a meal, we actually have a meal cost of $4.40. So we, through staffing as well as cost of food, we have a lower meal cost than what we're receiving. We're getting 44 cents for those remaining 48% of the meals. That 20-cent positive variance is incorporating into that 48% of those, what they classified as paid meals. We then are able to serve all students in the district. Everybody's treated equal. We are not having to collect balances. We're not having to tell families or kids that they don't have money on their account.
Ms. Moody, does anyone, and I apologize for not knowing this, but does anyone in your department participate in the process of collecting applications, collecting monies for unpaid lunches, any of that?
So actually it would, no, well, the applications, if it was to come back, it would come back to my department directly, and then verification, and that would have to happen within the department. The actual collection of the monies, the way that our district is set up, is that it's actually would be the secretaries at the schools and the principals who would have to be collecting the money and doing that. So the applications are actually received by the, I guess we should say they are received by the secretaries. They are brought in that way. But yes, I was only here for the very first year with that before, and then we went on to CEP. So we would have to figure out how we're going to make it all work.
That would be my question is, this is a June 30th decision, right? That's when it goes into place. Do you have the staffing to handle that application process currently?
Madam Chair, I can help with that.
I mean, if you can feel the tension, you can feel the tension.
The applications are all done electronically.
Okay.
So it's a matter of the staff speaking to the families, ensuring that they're completing the applications electronically. The manpower really comes into central, is where it comes into play. Ramona and myself walk through processes of verification. And the verification is communication that happens in October and November. That's statutorily required if we're accepting applications. And that's where we randomly have to pick a certain percent of applications. We reach out to families. They have to provide us documentation to substantiate their application. And at that time, unfortunately, maybe somebody didn't complete an application correctly, or they're not able to verify or don't want to verify. And then those students end up getting kicked off the program. So that's not a very fun process to have to walk through.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
One of the things that I think we're focused on is the idea that free and reduced lunches might not be available to students that need them, or the fact that families that can afford should be paying. The CEP, yes, all of those things are added benefits, but it isn't about subsidizing meals for families that can afford them. It's eliminating the barriers and the cost that we have administratively that Marcy just talked about, because we know that when there is a requirement for tracking, it creates an administrative burden. It also results in a stigma for application processes. And as my principals have emailed the board, shared about the challenge of unpaid meal debt. That's a huge issue that creates, Mr. Gilchrist sent an email just last evening that I forwarded that really specifically went into detail the difficulty of making those calls and those relationships that they're establishing with families, all going by the wayside because we have the stigma of unpaid lunch debt. And what we're trying to do is, when we have that stigma, the people that we're really trying to focus on are free and reduced lunch numbers. When we attach all of those barriers, those numbers go down. But with CEP, as we've shown with the data, more kids eat. 70,000 more meals were served this previous to this year, and roughly about 60,000 this year. So more kids actually eat. We reduce the cost for paperwork administratively. We reduce any collections cost and staffing. It's just really about a more efficient way of doing our lunch program, as opposed to the stigma of who gets what benefit and who doesn't. It's efficiency. That's the bottom line. That's what it is for us. So we don't have to hire additional administrative staffing that doesn't go to these kids. When we serve meals to all kids, it goes to the kids. It doesn't go to administratively. We're not adding a significant amount of kitchen staff. We're just serving more meals. That's a win.
I will say that we did not add any staff when we went into the program. My staff just really stepped up and really made sure that they could make sure that the extra meals were served.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I think, oh, it's back. My mic wasn't working.
I'll shut mine off.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on this point, just for my own edification. So on the page that shows ISP, I'll just use this as an example, because I guess it's the year we're locked into. If I understand, this is the 24-25 school years, the numbers that would be based on. And just to be clear, if I'm reading this correctly, we have 519 students that are those 519 are what make up our ISP percentage. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
So those 519, if we were to go back to free reduced, those 519 would still not be filling out an application. They would still get the free meal.
It would
Because
actually go to the current year data though for that. So you would actually be looking at the 2026 school year. So that says that there's 400.
Oh, right, because it wouldn't be under CEP. Okay, so it'd be the 418 students identified would still not have an application process, because that's how direct certification works. I just want to make sure I understand what direct certification really means.
Madam Chair, does everybody understand what Mr. Goulart was sharing?
No.
Okay. If you look here at this slide, we receive the benefit of the 24-25 school year. And the reason why we're receiving the benefit of the 24-25 school year is that's our high. That 519 identified students being directly certified out of 1,592 enrollment. If you look at what we had in April of this year, we only had 418 students out of 1,587 enrolled. Our percentage goes down this year. Through CEP, we receive a 5-year time frame at that highest rate. So we receive the benefit if we stay with CEP of that higher percentage. However, if we go off the free and reduced program, we only have certification because that certification is required every year. We only have certification for 418 students. So we have 101 students that have lost their certification from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26.
Thank you for that.
But to zero in on my question, those 418 would not have an application if under free reduced. Their families would not be filling out anything.
The certification is good for a year. So depending upon when they became certified, they would have to be certified again throughout the year or complete an application. That certification only is good for 12 months.
But if that child remains in one of those programs, whether it's Medicaid, SNAP, I think there's probably at least a half dozen categories, correct? If they remain in those programs, then the direct certification would simply continue. Is that correct?
Correct. They would have to remain.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, may.
Yes.
Marcy, do you recall, and this is maybe even Kevin might be able to answer this question, prior to CEP, do you roughly remember our percentage of students that qualified for free and reduced lunch? Upper 30s. I mean, that was probably upper 30%. So if we take that 418 that's directly certified, that's approximately 26% of our total student population. So what we're saying is that probably 13% of our students would still then, who are eligible, then have to apply for free and reduced lunch. And just what we talked about specifically, the burden of that paperwork and all of those things, 13%, almost half of the ones that directly certify, would still then have an administrative burden, still have a paperwork burden from the parent perspective, and possibly wouldn't be filling out those, creating unpaid lunch debt, creating all of those things that we talked about that reduce this by the CEP efficiency piece.
Madam Chair, I would like to also, I'm going to try to explain this, and it's in my tired head right now, but I don't think there's a way eventually we would be able to calculate this, but to offset what we would pay in administrative costs, if we looked at that without, and we weren't doing CEP, my argument is, would it not be close to that same amount that we transfer? If we were to calculate all of those unintended and expenses that we would incur, but we don't calculate them into that. I mean, and here everyone is getting fed. And so I don't think that we can look at it because we're not comparing apples to apples. Does that make sense?
Sure. I think the timing is interesting because, again, the recalibration committee has literally just discussed this yesterday for several hours and heard a lot of public comment on it. And the state is actually discussing universal meals. So the state is recognizing right now the efficiency argument, right? That it just doesn't make sense to keep parsing it out per meal and so forth. My biggest concern, and Ms. Cottrell brought it to light, is that we're making this decision, that's effective in 5 days. It does not give families, staff, anyone, the appropriate and adequate time to plan. It really doesn't. Even for those families, what I've been told from the staff is that even those families that don't qualify for the free and reduced, it still helps them out financially, right? Because their children are also in the school district. And so it's just, you know, if the board is inclined to not approve the CEP this year, or this time, I would be inclined to ask for one more year to allow, number one, the state to figure it out and what they're going to do with their reimbursement and how they're going to fund the nutrition program. And then also just that adequate time to allow families to plan. Any other questions about the CEP program before she moves on to the summer program?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm trying to get a handle on what's going on. I appreciate your comment, by the way. I do agree that making this decision at this late time is not fair to everyone. But I'm trying to understand.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the diagram that talks about the students' meals served for comparison, and I'm looking at the transfer and lunch reimbursement rate. And I'm just trying to understand, I'm looking at the 25 and 26 school year where we did the transfer of $550,000. And the $4.60. And then there's a 52% beside that. What does that mean?
So 52% of the meals claimed are eligible to be reimbursed at the full free rate. The 48% are reimbursed at the paid rate.
Okay. So then my next question is, when that money is reimbursed, where's it going in our system?
It goes, yeah.
That money goes right into the school lunch program. We are required, the school lunch program operates as an enterprise fund. When you approve the food service budget, that is exactly where all of those reimbursements go. That's the revenue for the food service fund.
So it goes back into the school fund. And so then it goes into the school fund, but then we also transfer money in to also fund the fund.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know is how we're funding the fund. And so we have money coming into the fund, but then we're also transferring money into the fund.
From
Okay.
general funds.
From general fund.
Correct.
That was basically my question. Thank you.
Trustee Chair.
Mrs. Gates, correct me if I'm wrong, but the school service enterprise fund has never been self-sufficient. In the history of having it, we have always had to transfer money into that, correct?
Mostly.
Okay.
If you look here in 22, 23,
Mhm.
we had CEP, or not CEP, we had COVID,
Mhm.
Cs, we had COVID, and COVID provided free meals for all. The free meals for all provided during COVID were at a higher reimbursement rate than what we're seeing for CEP. It was everybody, every meal at a much higher rate. You can see in 21, 22, we were receiving $4.13 for all meals. Because of that, we had excess cash. So in 21, 22, we only needed to transfer 35,000, and then 22, 23, there was no transfer. Those are the only years.
But
when there
outside
was
of
not.
COVID, which obviously was a complete anomaly and will hopefully never happen again, we have always had to transfer a significant amount of money to make sure that our kiddos are eating.
Correct. It historically has been at least 200,000.
Thank you.
That's why I included the inflation numbers, just to kind of a comparison of where we were at then versus now as well.
Yeah, very helpful. How about now? We ready to move on from CEP, or is there any other questions? Okay, Ms. Moody, you want to move forward to?
I just wanted to also include our summer food service program because we've been doing some pretty great things around Torrington. So if you get out and about and you see some of my delivery trucks, they're actually going from park to park delivering meals. And as of the first 12 days, so we're only operating 4 days a week, but on the 4th day, the kids can pick up 4 meals each. So as of in the first 12 days of the summer meal program, we served 4,446 meals at the park, between the parks and trail, most of that being at the parks. So I just kind of included some of the quotes of some of the things that we were hearing. This is really awesome for the kids. My kids think it's a surprise what we're going to get each day. I hope we continue to do this food program for years to come. There was an out-of-state person that talked to some of my staff and they said, I love that you have this for your community. I wish we had something like this where we live. And then community members have been thanking my staff as well. Thank you for doing this for the kids in the community. What a great way to get kids food daily. So it's just, I just wanted to say that there is a need for it. I mean, obviously, that's why we're operating the summer food service program. We're doing, I just wanted to let you guys know that we're doing some great things out there this summer with feeding the kids out there. And they get a hot meal every day if they want. So they might even get a walking taco at the park or something like that. So they get a fruit, a vegetable, and a milk every day. So just wanted to talk about the summer food service program.
It's fantastic. Thank you. Any questions?
Oh, one, the district, though, in this case, we're not funding this. This is through WDE, and I imagine federal funding or state funding, but that's not something that we're
Yes, it
budgeting.
is a program that I actually do enroll us in the summer food service program. And we do also participate in a program called CACFP, which is a child and adult care program as well, where we're I'm using that to help supplement the after school program for snacks and some of the Friday schools and some of our schools that qualify.
That's great. Any other questions? For Ms. Moody, at least. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that. So following that presentation, I would entertain a motion to consider approval of maintaining the district community eligibility provision status for the 26-27 school year.
I move to maintain the district community eligibility provision status for the 26-27 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I would just like to thank Ramona for all the information that she brought.
absolutely.
It was very helpful.
Absolutely. Ms. Moody and Ms. Cates have done a great job in putting those numbers together. I'm also very grateful to the administrators and the staff and several parents who have reached out via email and messaging to kind of give us an idea of where they stand and what they are seeing. It really helps because although some of us have kids in the school district, we don't see everything. So I appreciate that. All right, with that, all those in favor. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's
Go ahead,
okay.
Trustee Strempy.
I'm sorry. I was just going to address or ask if the one of the questions that Mrs. Cottrell asked could be addressed about why we're voting on this again, even though we voted for it as part of the overall budget. Yeah.
What was included, and I've really thought about that comment. That was part of the preliminary budget, and it was included as the funds are available for transfer should the board choose to stay with CEP and be there for the final budget. But that was part of the preliminary budget. And my job with the preliminary budget is to kind of give you the whole picture.
Thank you. Yeah, and just so the public is clear, we discussed this 500,000 or what have you in the preliminary budget and then also in the formal budget hearing, correct? Or that's coming up. Okay. All right, but we discussed it in the preliminary budget. Yeah, extensively. And there were no objections or comments during that time, correct? Okay. Anybody else? Sorry, I didn't mean to skip you. All right. Okay, with that, all those in favor of approving the maintenance of the district community eligibility provision for 26-27, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. I'm gonna have to take a hand vote, please. Yep, I
Mine's not
wondered that. All those in favor of approving CE please signify by raising your hand. And all those opposed? 6-3, motion passes. Next is to consider the approval of construction change order for the THS Willie Gymnasium project. Ms. Cates, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Madam Chair, what we have here is a change order for what we're referring to as the THS Willie Gym project. This is some electrical work of which we had been talking to the contractor about getting pricing for, and there just was somewhat of a lag in getting that pricing for the district. We did request that there be some conduit readjusted in order to better place the tectum panels. And then technology had a request for some additional wiring and conduit placement in order to adjust and reduce some switches and move the placement of some cameras. So I guess the biggest thing with this is I'd be happy to entertain, as well as Mike, any questions that you might have with these change orders. This will be funded with major maintenance dollars.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mrs. Cates or Mike? Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Right, all those in favor of approving the construction change order for THS Willie Gymnasium project in the amount of $66,328.90 for the additional electrical work to move conduit for relocation of technology equipment in Willie Gym, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, before we go to the next one, I just was wondering, so my voting isn't coming up, and so I don't know if.
The CFP logo.
Yes. Okay.
I'm also banking on you audibly telling me if you are against anything as well. Thank you. All right, next is a discussion and possible action regarding renewal of previous board action concerning the WSBA membership. And so I just would like to address Ms. Cohorn's previous comments, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. My understanding is, first of all, this board has not formally adopted the Roberts Rules. She's absolutely correct. What we have adopted is the it's a revised version for small boards of less than 12 people. And the purpose of that is so that we don't have that formality, right? Roberts Rules, it limits you to speaking on a topic one time, and it's very, very rigorous and very just cut and paste, right? And so that's why this board has always operated under this revised rule for smaller boards. You're more than welcome to look it up. They do exist. They're available online. I believe specifically it's chapter 12 that allows a motion to renew. Now, the difference between a motion to renew and a motion for reconsideration is a motion for reconsideration is basically stating, hey, I think you guys made the wrong decision and I'm asking you to reconsider it. A motion for renewal is different in that it is, hey, I think there's new information or information available that you didn't consider in the initial vote, and we're asking that you renew that vote by looking at that new information. And so the new information that I'm specifically referring to, and I confess myself, I did not understand the life insurance benefits alone that were available under WSBA. But with that, I mean, the board was provided with a brochure from WSBA. We have access to their website. We literally have a board member that was a liaison for WSBA and attended the seminar and trainings. And even with that, there still was some information that just wasn't as clear during that discussion of that vote. And so we wanted to, I've been asked to put it back on the agenda up to this point in this date. I've not rejected anybody's request to put something on the agenda. And so that's why it's been placed on the agenda at this time. Is Mr. Farmer still on Zoom? Is he? Mr. Farmer, I really hate to call you out, but if you're available, if you're able, would you mind speaking to that? I want to make sure I'm on the right page in my understanding of what has been stated during public comment to make sure we're on the right page.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Brian Farmer, Executive Director for Wyoming School Boards Association. Were you specifically asking about the questions regarding Robert's Rules or questions regarding life insurance?
Mainly Robert's Rules, and if the board desires, Mr. Farmer, and we've got you, we may ask more questions about the benefits of the WSBA membership.
You bet, Madam Chair. I will tell you that the notion of a motion to reconsider, or whether you can vote on something that you've previously voted on, is often a misunderstood or misconceived piece of Robert's rules. Anytime that a motion has been voted on in a previous meeting and that meeting concludes, then the motion is essentially dead. If you want to reconsider it during the course of the meeting, then you have a motion to reconsider. So that reconsideration, it is significant because a motion of reconsideration is for a same meeting. In the subsequent meeting, you have sort of the issue that you talked about, the opportunity or the option to renew a previously considered motion. And so under Robert's rules, it is appropriate, depending on the will of the body, for the board to bring back something that they had previously decided on. So you can certainly bring back the exact same motion by making a new motion. It does require a second. It is fully debatable, and it would need a majority vote in order to pass. And so the fact that you do it at a subsequent meeting is of course quite significant because that is no longer the motion to reconsider. That is the renewal of a motion. I will also tell you one of the statements that I think help to clarify some things, that as you indicated, Robert's rules for small boards does have a looser standard than what you would have under Robert's rules ordinarily. And under Robert's rules for small bodies, then any member can bring forward a motion to reconsider. Now, of course, that is moot because you are not making a motion to reconsider now. But under Robert's rules for small boards, it does not have to be a party of the or a member of the prevailing side on the vote. So yes, it is appropriate. Yes, the board may consider it. It is subject to the will of the body. Does require the motion to be made, seconded, is fully debatable, and then subject to the vote of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. I appreciate that. I didn't realize you were going to be available to speak today, so you articulate it so much better than I do, so I appreciate that. There was a comment during public comment about my behavior during this vote, and I'm happy to address that. What you saw from me was frustration. And here's why I'm frustrated, folks. First of all, after speaking with Mr. Farmer and others at WSBA, Goshen County is the first to vote down the membership with WSBA. That's difficult in that it provides so many resources to all of those at this table, as well as our staff and employees. That's even the life insurance piece alone, you know, setting that separate. The other piece that's frustrating to me is we did have a board member attend the seminar for WSBA, at which time the advocacy agenda was presented. It specifically states online, as well as that agenda at the seminar, what will be discussed, right? And at no point in time was it reported to this board that there were concerns about what they were advocating for. And so that's frustrating to me as well. Additionally, Mr. Farmer was specifically requested by this board to come and speak with us about board governance and just how to operate as a board. And I accommodated that request and had him come and do so, and he did a fantastic job. There's not been a mention prior to that vote of any concerns pertaining to WSBA and their advocacy and what they were doing. And so to not discuss it and vote against it for something that is so significant and significantly has direct impacts to those in the district is frustrating for me. The other piece too that I think needs to be highlighted is the legislative sessions alone are a full-time job to keep up with. And WSBA is a nonpartisan group that collects that information and sends it to us on the daily. I don't know who has time otherwise to monitor that and report it. It's significant and it's a heavy lift. you know, if there are concerns by anyone in this board about what the WSBA is advocating for, we have been given an opportunity to have one of our members be on that board. I've received no feedback on that and whether anybody is interested. So it's a frustrating situation in that no conversation occurred prior to that vote. It felt as though it was just ripped from the district without taking into consideration the significant benefits that they do offer. We have, you know, that brochure from Mr. Farmer and WSBA that goes into it, as well as if you've done any research online, their website's pretty in-depth. Any other discussion before we make a motion? Yes, Mr.
I have several questions, actually.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, let's start with modified Roberts rules, because that's what we say we go by.
About what? I'm sorry.
Modified Roberts rules.
Okay.
Okay. And we definitely go by that because there's so much of Robert's rules that is totally ignored and violated on this board. It's unbelievable.
Mr. Alexander, at what point in time have you brought that to the attention of the board during a public session?
You know, being the chairman of the board, I would think you would keep some of that control already, and you would know the Robert's rules as well. We did ask for modified Robert's rules when this board was sworn in. When we had the work session, we asked about it. We're like, we would like to know what those rules are.
Sure.
And we never received anything on it. We have no clue what is modified on the Robert's rules, period. And I hope Mr. Farmer's still on because maybe he can help us with some answers. Anyway, these modified Robert's rules, we have no clue. You're just making stuff up as we go, as far as we know, because we don't know what they are. There's no list. We don't know what part of Robert's rules has been modified. And the book is a lot. Okay, so we need to know. Also, in our governance rules, it says the board will make the procedures of modified Robert's rules that we will go by. That means when we make that decision, it's going to have to be done in public, in a public meeting, and it's going to have to be advertised for the public to see. And then when we make those modified Robert's rules, it is going to have to be put down so we know what they are and the public knows what they are. Otherwise, we are violating open meeting laws because they don't have a clue either. So what modified is, can you show me or tell me what those list of modified Robert's rules are? Can you provide me with a book? Because I got my Robert's rules book. I have my governance rules in here. I have a list. The public can go to our website and get to our governance rules. They can order themselves a Robert's rules book, so they know what those rules are. But I'd like to know who has that list of modified Robert's rules that we can look at.
Trustee Alexander, do you have access to Google?
I do.
Okay.
And I've looked it up.
That's right.
And it could be because I don't see the ones that we're going by because our governance says the board will make that list.
Can you direct me to where it says that in the governance? Yeah, because
I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy to entertain that if that's something that the board would like to do. I will dispel the fairy tale that the board chair is primarily responsible for running the entire meeting and keeping us in line with the rules. That's the duty of every single one of you, just so you know. And I depend on every single one of you to help do that. And frequently I ask if the board is okay with what we're doing. So if that's not been clear, I am looking to each and every one of you to help us stay in line with what you think should and shouldn't happen in this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under 2.3 meetings, number 4, it says the board will establish the operational procedures for meetings using modified Robert's Rules of Order.
Right. My question was a lot simpler, Trustee Alexander. You said that it was up to the board to list out what the modified rules were. Where does it say that?
Well, what does establish mean then?
We've agreed to use the modified rules.
It says the board will establish the operational procedures for meetings using modified Robert's Rules. Now, is there more than one modified Robert's Rules?
It's the
I have not been
modified
able to
rules
find a
for
list of
small
modified
boards.
Robert's Rules. What's that?
It's the modified Robert's Rules for small boards.
So bring it
Mr.
up.
Farmer,
Can you bring it up online for me?
I just Googled it. You can
Yeah,
look it up.
it's very simple to find.
I look for it. And I
I'm,
could
I'm
not-
sorry you can't find it. It's very simple to find.
So you won't bring it up.
It's not my responsibility to show you how to use Google, Mr. Alexander. I don't know what else to tell
I
you.
guess we'll find out.
Find out what? Again, the threats, right, Mr. Alexander?
threat?
Like, what's the,
What threat?
what's the point? Well, what are we gonna find out?
I guess we'll find out if it's out there.
It is out there.
I struggle with this conversation right now because this is a 9-person board. And at any given point in time, we should all step up if we think something is not being done procedurally, if we do not understand what is happening. I've served on this board with you for 4 years, Trustee Alexander. That is plenty of time for us to sit down and write out a list if that is what you would desire.
We asked.
Then, but did it happen? I
No.
mean, whose job is it to make that happen then? Because I've sat on so many committees, I can't even count, some of which I have instigated. You are free to do that as well. You don't have to sit as the board chair to do so.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Sharp.
I struggle with this board too. I don't understand why we can't have a link on our website that links to the rules.
Here.
Why are we struggling and not providing it? Put a link
Oh, that
on
was
the Goshen County School District #1 website under the board that goes to the rules, so the entire public and the board can see what we're following.
Trustee Sharp, if you would like to research where the link is and provide that to Mr. Kramer, that'd be fantastic. You know, updating the website is not a duty of the board. But if you would like that added, I'm sure that
If you're
the,
willing to go with the link that I choose,
well, I'd like, obviously, we'd like to make sure it's accurate,
well,
right? But here's the frustration is this, why is this
everybody's
coming
saying they
up
have the
now?
link, but now you want me to do it. If you got the link, let's use it. You guys have the link, use it.
I don't need the link is the point. I've not needed it. If I do need it, I know how to find it on Google.
It's a matter of transparency. The community needs it.
The
We need
online
it.
web could not be more transparent and available to the public. But if you would like, go ahead and send a link to Mr. Kramer and they can determine if it's accurate and if they're able to put it on the website. That's not something the board does.
Okay, thank you.
I was just, if I could, please, Madam Chair.
Sure.
She brought up a link. It says simplified. It says Robert rules for small boards. I don't see anything about a modified Robert's rules.
So maybe the terminology is incorrect. It's the
Maybe that's what
simplified.
threw me off and I can't find it, but now that I haven't read it, does it say that that we're changing in Robert's rules, and does it specify certain things that are changed? Or is it just everything in Robert's rules that we get to change?
I don't even know how to answer that. It literally states what you can and cannot do in the rules for the small boards of less than 12 people. I do not proclaim to be an expert in Robert's rules or the simplified version. If you have questions, I would direct you to look at the rules themselves.
One looks really interesting. It says treat all members with justice and courtesy. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's why we get called names and everything else and we don't vote with you.
You know, Trustee Alexander, I've seen your Facebook posts. You literally roasted me on a podcast. I've said nothing to you. So can we move on and actually do what benefits the district and focus on the district's business?
Add one thing. I mean, I think it was a few months ago, and I mean, over the years, probably way more than one occasion, but our district's attorney, I mean, I've heard him multiple times explain just the basic fundamentals of how a board adopts Robert's rules. And I mean, he's explained it to all of us numerous times. It's not, none of it is 100% black and white. That's why we use it. So, I mean, I don't know what's the point of trying to make it black and white. He's explained it. We use it to our best ability. There's going to be mistakes sometimes. There's not. If there is a mistake, we try to come together and fix it. I mean, kind of common sense, but I don't understand the problem with it.
So I guess my question is, what is the motion going to be? Because you.
Would you like me to
mentioned
make a
about
motion?
Renewal or something.
And then we can continue discussion. Generally, we do make a motion and then have the discussion.
Well, it was brought up already, that we were going to do a motion to renew or whatever you were trying to describe it. So,
Correct.
and I was looking them up, and if it's a motion to renew, that is an application you have to fill out and send it to a court.
No, Mr. Elder.
It is a legal court action, and there's forms and deadlines you have to fill out for a motion to renew. Now, renewal of a motion is different. Words have meanings. I mean, they make different differences. And my understanding of that is it's supposed to be the motion completely made all over again under new business in a new meeting, which we are in a new meeting, but it is supposed to be a new business and that motion remade under new business. Just bringing that up, what I've read. Of course, I was reading Robert's rules too.
Yeah, it's too bad you didn't bring that up before when the agenda was distributed, but it is a new meeting. It's a new motion that's being considered. We are not in a court of law, court proceedings, so those rules do not apply here. I would entertain a motion if there is to be a motion.
Yes, I'd like to have more of a conversation regarding the WSBA and what we're considering there, other than little stuff about Robert's rule. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we're here, I thought.
And I can give a little bit more of an explanation, Trustee Hager. I appreciate that question. I received numerous emails from staff specifically upset about the life insurance piece. There were pieces, as Ms. Cottrell mentioned during public comment, about the advertising for positions throughout the district. There are pieces from central administration that they will be missing now as a result of the WSBA membership. And then I also voiced my concerns as board chair. I use them as a huge resource. We have board chair roundtables. I've heavily relied on those individuals to obtain information, to share with the board, and kind of just discuss like how to handle certain situations and topics. That's in addition to the numerous and extensive list of benefits that Mr. Farmer has provided to us that I forwarded on to everyone on the board. So, I mean, if you want us to go into further details, happy to do that. Just as I mentioned, Goshen County School District #1 has participated in the WSBA membership since at least 2008, or at least that's as far back as we can go with Ms. Cates. Okay, so just historically, that's the information that we have.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to point out, I was the one who asked that this, that we reconsider or whatever the wording is for this. And this is not going to be a popular statement for some on this board, but had we not had the advocacy of the Wyoming School Board Association during recalibration, I don't know about anybody else on this board, but I have enough education under my belt to feel that, to say that I feel pretty confident when I look at school funding and my background in terms of higher education. And I would not have been able to understand or follow everything that was happening at the legislative level during recalibration. And that impacted us significantly. And if it impacts us, it impacts the students in this district. And that is what we're here for. We are here to serve the students in this district and the families and the parents. And we need that advocacy, whether you think it's a union or whatever your political slant is on that. I would challenge anybody on this board to sit back and say, oh yeah, I understood recalibration completely, 100%. I didn't need any help with that. Because I went to every recalibration meeting that WSBA held, and I still had questions. I still didn't understand it. I still needed Marcy to explain little nuances and even now there's still things I don't understand. So just that little piece, which I know is a thorn in the side of many people on this board, that alone is a benefit to us. And I stand behind that.
The other thing that WSB offers is policies for the policy committee, examples. So we're not starting from the ground up. That's a pretty heavy lift. This year is an election year where I think 3, if not 4 of the board members are either up for re-election or new positions. And so the WSBA offers public officer training, which is statutorily required for each and every one of us to sit on this board. That's another benefit. That is
much more complex when not done through WSBA.
Yes,
They
it is.
streamline that immensely for us.
And just make it easy, right? 100%. We receive discounted subscriptions. Assembly is one of them that Lorene uses for our meetings. I mean, I could go on and on. So Trustee Hager, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. I guess the only other little part is, I don't know if Marcy or somebody just, or Mr. Farmer. I guess the only, one of the conversations we've had as a board is, a few board members didn't like the financial part of the fees. So what are the total fees? And say if we weren't part of the WSBA, is there a financial number, monetary number, that it would actually cost on the open market to replace the services that we gain from that? I mean, would we have to spend more money than just the fees if we have to replace that, what we're losing?
They'd be rough guesstimates. I mean, in regards to, yes, the life insurance benefit, there certainly would be the ability for us to go out in the open market and seek a replacement for that. That would come at a cost. So you have that cost. You have board training costs. Rough estimates, I'm sure we could quantify, and maybe even Mr. Farmer can answer that better, of what that would be. The challenge is that when we make these changes without having those things in place, there will be, if we would not renew with WSBA, there will be a gap in service. Unquestionably, there will be a gap in service for life insurance. My fear is what happens in that gap. None of us can predict any of that. There are things through communication that we can plan ahead, open dialogue within the board to say, you know what, this is something that we need to look into, we need to quantify, and all of those things are possible. Just as with what we previous discussions on some of the other agenda items. We can plan ahead when we take a look at and quantifying it and comparing it. The challenge becomes when we don't have that communication ahead of time and then react and then try to have to backfill some of those things and then create gaps in service. That's a concerning piece for us.
Madam Chair, there's 2 other pieces that we haven't talked about, and I do think it's important to share. WSBA is the entity that is providing us the insurance through school risk retention. At the present time, it's not necessary for us to be a member of WSBA in order to participate in the school risk retention pool. That's our property and casualty insurance that was approved last month that we retain with them. We often talk about the fact that due to our hailstorms, we may be uninsurable if we were to try and go out on the open market. At the present time, we can not be a member of WSBA and still participate in that insurance pool, but they could change their bylaws and their directives. The other piece that we receive through the benefit of WSBA is the Child Nutrition Co-op. Ramona receives the benefit of belonging to that, and we receive our food for food nutrition through that. Again, membership is not a requirement at the present time, but that could change as well. So we are, regardless if we're a member or not of WSBA, we're receiving benefit of two very large programs, that it's important to understand that.
Madam Chair. I was unfortunately able to attend our last meeting, and I apologize for that. And I did try to listen to the meeting online, and as was previously stated, there were a lot of holes. So I guess what I would like to know, not having been there for that conversation, is what exactly our concerns are with WSBA and why we're looking to not renew this. And then just a simple statement similar to CEP, when we wait until the last minute to make these decisions, the ripple effects are so much larger. We have all year long to talk about these kinds of things. And I'd like to see, I mean, we've had that complaint as a board before, that we don't have enough time to really process information and look at all the repercussions of some of our actions. And so I would just ask this board to be mindful going forward that when we want to see a change, that we give it adequate time before that is enacted.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I was wondering on the benefits that we receive, how many of them are actually included in the membership fee, and how many of them are actually available for purchase? So I know as far as a lot of the educational opportunities that I took advantage of, we paid an additional fee for me to attend those programs. They were not actually included in the educational, they were not actually included in the benefit for free. We paid for my legislative attendance. We paid for my attendance at Casper. They weren't a free service. So even though I had the membership benefit of being allowed to go, I still had to pay. The district still had to pay for me to be there. So I'm wondering, the benefit was the fact that I was we were a member, but the program was not free. And that is one of my issues, is we're paying $15,000. Can they not give us 5 people?
You're speaking about the seminar that's in November.
Yeah, and the legislative ones I go to in Cheyenne. It's like, can they not give us free attendance to these meetings? We're paying $15,000. I'm not expecting free hotels.
Yeah, I suspect it's for a discounted rate, but Ms. Cates, would you like to address that?
I mean, these are little issues. I know they're not much money, but it's like $15,000. Can they not provide us with some?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Mr. Farmer an opportunity to answer that as well, since we do have the benefit of having him online. But Ms. Cates, if you could go ahead and say whatever you needed to say, and then I'll defer to Mr. Farmer.
Well, I was going to suggest that we give Mr. Farmer the opportunity to mention, but I also am going to assume that, you know, we're receiving the benefit of being able to attend, but WSBA also is having to rent the space, and they have, you know, for both legislative forum, whether it be at Little America or the Ramkota, but I would recommend that we defer to Mr. Farmer.
Yep, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Just one moment. I'm going to allow Mr. Farmer to respond to that.
Respond to Marcy.
Let's let Mr. Farmer go ahead and respond to that. If you just hold on to that thought. And Mr. Farmer, boy, am I glad you popped on today. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Madam Chair. There are certainly benefits that are part of the general membership that are available. Those include advocacy, legislative services, public officer training, publications, weekly communications, daily communication during the legislative session, superintendent evaluation tools, board evaluation tools, board work-alike, such as the board chair, board secretary work-alike, vacancy postings, select trainings and workshops are available without charge. Those are primarily virtual workshops. Access to national resources and communications, such as the webinars through COSBA. There are board recognition program and consultation. Those would be the general services that are available. And then whenever there is a fee charged for something, the fees are at a discounted rate, which provides something at well below the market rate. So for example, Goshen County has used Wyoming School Boards Association for a superintendent search, and we only charge about half of what the market rate for a superintendent search would be. When it comes to conferences or workshops, cost is primarily determined by food costs and facility costs. Any speaker costs or anything like that are borne by the association. Other services that we provide, like policies, WSBA provides those model policies. If you were to have a private attorney do those, you're probably looking at rates of $200 an hour from your attorney. And so WSBA's rate is a very discounted rate from what the public market would be. And then, of course, the programs, the school risk retention, the LIFE, the BI board, the child nutrition cooperative, and access to discounted subscription like Symbly, all ensure that when a fee is charged, that the fee is below a market rate for what the district would be paying for something like that.
Thank you. Any other discussions about why you're not in favor, I guess, is where we're at.
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over your next comment.
That's fine. My question was, I know in the past when I was attending my own organizational meetings, annual meetings, we always had plenty of vendors, and we offset the cost of our organizational meetings with our vendor fees. And so we had very minimal costs to our association members because our vendors basically funded our meetings. They funded our food costs. They funded our meeting halls. They funded pretty much everything except for very minimal. And so I just wondered, that's where I was at, is we always utilized our vendors because they were there to sell a product, and we really worked the business end of things.
I'm sure Mr. Farmer and his team would entertain any suggestions that you may have if you'd like to contact him directly. That'd be fantastic.
No, and that's just where I was at, because we always made it so that we had very little cost to ourselves.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I may.
Mr. Kramer.
As part of the School Board Association in different states, along with also the Superintendent's Association, I can say Wyoming, unfortunately, we're not number one on the list for schools in regards to vendors being able to populate. Superintendent's Association in Iowa, School Board Association in Iowa had hundreds of vendors, and it was a very, very lucrative business for them. For only 48 districts, which equals about a quarter of the corner in Northwest Iowa, Wyoming doesn't get the movement or the expense to support those things. But I do know that, as a member of the Superintendent Association, and just like Wyoming School Board Association does, utilizes those dollars to bring that vendor contribution membership amount down. But of course, there's still a contribution that we have to entail. And so I know that is always something on the forefront of both organizations, and trying to keep that cost as low as possible, but knowing that all the time vendors aren't just going to come out of the woodwork for 48 school districts in Wyoming, unfortunately. We'd love it to happen.
Trustee Goulart, did you have a
Thank you, Madam
comment?
Chair. So I want to avoid getting into any discussion that is actually irrelevant. It's no secret the WSBA is a political lobbying advocacy group. I don't have a criticism of that. I pay membership dues to, and I have over my lifetime paid personally paid dues to organizations that lobby and advocate for the things that I believe in. And I think that's one of the finest civic traditions we have, even though there's a lot of opinion about that one or the other. But that's where I believe I am bound because of the fact that what we are doing, stipulating that WSBA and organizations like it provide outstanding services and benefits, discounted features and all those things. Even if you guys were saving kittens from burning buildings, I mean, that would be great. But what we're essentially voting on doing is taking taxpayer money, and a portion of it is going to go into political lobbying. And where I'm stuck, and it's a fair criticism, I voted for the renewal last year, and I hadn't contemplated the depth, I guess, of what it was we're doing. We're taking $15,000 of taxpayer money and diverting a portion of it, whatever that portion is, the amount is probably irrelevant as well, into an organization that advocates politically. That ought to be a barrier. We ought not be authorized to direct, funnel, whatever word you want to use, any portion of the taxpayer money that we're responsible for to organizations that are lobbying politically. That's got to be a barrier. And I get that it doesn't seem to be. The county commissioners have their organization. I think city councils have theirs. I think even the clerks and the tax people have theirs. The assessor's office, I think there's assessors association. But in every case, taxpayer money is being funneled into political lobbying efforts that they may or may not agree with or want anything to do with, one way or the other. So even if we were talking about joining Moms for Liberty or Wyoming Family Alliance, because they're another organization that offers some services to school boards and teachers and individuals that want to seek out their information, I wouldn't be able to bring them before this board for consideration because they're politically active. It's got to be a barrier, or at least it ought to be. And so that's where I've got a chain around my ankle as far as being able to approve this. So I would stipulate that I haven't heard anything today that's not accurate, but I'm still stuck.
I'd like just a little comment on the political side of it. I mean, everybody pays taxes, so there's really not anybody above anybody else based on paying taxes. I guess my main concern on the political aspect of it is there's nobody within our district or within the entire state as a whole that agrees with that viewpoint. You haven't heard anybody inside the district saying, we shouldn't be part of WSBA. Where they haven't came out to us.
There, 9 o'clock is really a convenient time.
Well, I mean, as a whole, they're not there, and I guess there's 47 other districts in the entire state that feel that WSBA is worth joining. So, I mean, to me, the only argument concerns are financial, $15,000, and not wanting to be part of to fund a political organization. So you got to choose, you're going to not fund a political organization or go against everybody within the district that says, we want this service. Okay, so you're going to have to choose that. And to me, you're saying you don't want to fund this political movement. I mean, I guess I'd like to hear an explanation of voting no. How is that not your own political movement? It's just on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Because if it's not your own political movement, then who else is it? Because it's not the wishes of people that work inside the district, and it's not a movement that the other 47 districts in the entire state are acting on. So I just don't see how it's not political versus political. You're just on the other side of it. I don't know.
Madam Chair.
Just one moment.
If I may do-
Trustee Chairs, are you sure? Okay. Sorry, she had reached for the
So-
microphone. I just want to make sure we had some order. Go ahead, Trustee Goulart.
So I'll repeat part of what I said before. Boy, I'd be tickled to death if Moms for Liberty or Wyoming Family Alliance had that kind of membership deal for this board, and this board would consider membership with groups like that. And yeah, they have a political slant that's more my flavor for sure. But I would not, and even though I would want to, I could not bring them before this board for consideration because they're politically active in that way. That's the difference. Because they're political, it binds us in chains. And here's the reason. Yeah, they're paying taxes. It's not our money. That's the thing that we have to be cognizant of in everything we do. Well, except for we as individuals pay property taxes in as well. So it is a portion of it, I suppose, but the bulk of it, it's not our money. We are responsible for spending the taxpayers' money to do specifically and only those things that they want us to do in regards to educating their children. And directing that money towards a political active organization that's lobbying either in Cheyenne or Washington or wherever, whether they're conservative, whether they're on the left, that's not the issue. It's not a question of want. It's a question of what we're allowed to do in order to be responsible for the trustee, for the trust part of the word trustee. They're trusting us with their tax dollars to use them what they're intended for. And again, yeah, does it create inconveniences? Is the right thing to do easy? No, because if the right thing to do is easy, everybody would do it. So yeah, it will create inconveniences, and this board would have to step up, and we would have to discuss which of those benefits. And I haven't heard any benefits that I wouldn't want our staff to have. But the right way to do that would be to bring those benefits. And I don't know if it necessarily would have to be salary relations, but maybe that's the place where it would have to come up. But either way, whether we brought them up piecemeal before the public in an open meeting and voted yay or nay with the amount that we'd be spending on those individual items, even in, and very likely that if we were to piecemeal those benefits, probably would be more expensive, but it would be transparent. They would know exactly where their money was going, and we're not diverting it into political activity that we have you're right, we have no way of knowing how many of our constituents, how many of the citizens in this county would approve or disapprove of whatever political agenda items or advocacy items WSBA is voting for. That's the point. We're not supposed to be doing those kinds of things with their money because it doesn't belong to us.
But I guess my last argument to that would be is on the basis of doing what's right and doing what's wrong. I mean, I don't know how you justify that we're doing wrong and that we're doing right by voting no, and the other 47 districts in the entire state are wrong.
You make me think of my mom. She said, if all your friends jump off a bridge, you're going to follow them. Maybe that's not the best analogy in the world,
It's pretty
but
good.
just because everybody is doing something doesn't make it right. For example, and this is a little bit silly, but I think you'll appreciate it. There's this weird thing going on right now where there's a substantial group of people, it seems like, that think the world is flat. And it's really weird to watch this unfold. It's entertaining, actually. But let's play the game. Let's follow it out to its logical conclusion. If there wasn't a human being left alive on the planet that believed the world was round, the planet would not change its shape to accommodate that belief. Just because everybody is doing something doesn't mean they're doing it right.
But it's 100% and 1%. See what I'm getting at? It's not like it's a 20-20 or even like a 60-30. It's 47 districts and one.
We're the trailblazers, I suppose.
I'm
May I
gonna
go
allow,
now?
yeah, I'm gonna allow trustee
Okay.
chairs after the back and forth.
Mr. Farmer, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you keep bringing up the word advocacy, and I don't remember which meeting it is. It has to be fall, maybe. But the WSBA brings before our board a number of items that have been brought by members of boards throughout the state that are coming before the legislature that we feel are important. We get to vote as a board on whether or not we support those things or not. And then our elected member, who I believe is trustee Sharp, correct, gets to take our board's wishes to that board meeting. And then that is how they further advocate for the needs of our district. So we absolutely, there's complete transparency. We know what it is. And as a board, we get a say in what WSBA does for us in Cheyenne. As a member of this board, I ran because I'm very passionate about education and the people that educate our kids in this community. There are a lot of things that are very important that our taxpayer dollars go to, roads, blah, 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 blah. My job on this board is to educate or to advocate for education, and I will never stop doing that. People say, you always want more money? Yeah, because I want our kids and staff to have the best education possible. And I feel like my job on the board is to continually advocate for that. And that is what WSBA is doing too. You keep bringing up the word transparency, and from where I sit, I think they could not be more transparent. And it really grinds my gears that this board has utilized their services so extensively the entire time I've been on this board, and all of a sudden we see this as an issue. I just wish that had been brought up prior, especially by board members who I know quote Ryan Farmer on a regular and use their services so often.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Since you're on salary relations and everything, in salary relations, I'm just curious, was WSBA or the WEA involved in those negotiations as well? In salary relations on, I mean, are they represented or they represent anyone at salary relations? I was just curious. They're not involved in any of that.
No, that's a district function.
Well, I'm just wondering, because I used to be president of a union as well, and we were involved in all the negotiations. So that's why I was asking that question. So the other question I'm asking is. Okay.
I think there's something behind your question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it. Can you repeat that just so I kind of wonder where it's coming from, because we haven't talked about salary relations. So I'm guessing that you had done some research and have some things that are details that might better explain that question so we can answer it better. I don't want to claim a yes or no.
Sure.
If there's an entrapment piece there or something to try to claim, I just want to make sure and understand the question there.
Okay, we keep bringing up benefits. Okay, salary relations deals with pay and benefits. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and having been in a union and the president or a 3-state union and everything, I was involved in negotiations which had to do with pay and benefits. Okay, so the question I was going to ask is, if WSBA is not renewed, will any of the pay and benefits that have been negotiated in salary relations be affected in any way? Because that is the main reason anybody that works for this district is here, is there for the pay and the relation and the benefits of it. So what we're calling benefits on the WSBA part is not really benefits or perks, because they're not negotiated for. They are not part of the contract of the staff that works for Goshen County School District. So will any of those pay and benefits actually be affected?
And I just want to make sure I understand that. So in your definition, the life insurance, the WSBA, you're defining that as a perk. Is that not a benefit?
Basically a perk, because it is not in the depth, it has not been negotiated in the contract. That is not part of the contract for the employees. It is not, it's not the basis of what they're here. They're probably going to work here regardless. That's what you come for. That's why we give them a bonus to show up for that contract.
Sorry, so just to make sure I understood your answer. So you're saying, yes, you're defining WSBA's life insurance as a perk, not a benefit. Is that correct?
It is a perk being a member of you can call it a benefit, sure, but it is not part of the negotiated benefits of the district.
So then in the terms I'm understanding, as an employee, because a perk can be taken away by the board without notification, without advanced planning or anything like that. And I'm not meaning that as a judgment piece. I'm trying to understand from in your shoes how we're defining that so we can be on the same level.
All I'm asking is, if WSBA was not renewed, would the contract or the benefits or the salaries or anything else that was negotiated for the employees be affected?
The life insurance piece would
That,
be
that's not
effective.
negotiated.
It doesn't have to be negotiated to be a benefit. So for, I don't know, somebody else do the math, since 2008 at least, each and every employee of this district has reasonably relied on the fact that they have that benefit available to them. To Mr. Kramer's point, that is being potentially taken from them with no notice, no planning, no opportunity to obtain those same benefits, right? And so that's the difference. You can call it a perk, but to those that are actually using it, I think that they would consider that to be a benefit, regardless of whether it was negotiated by salary relations or not. Frankly, this topic was not brought to salary relations.
Because it was already handled. And that's the problem with waiting until the 11th hour to do this, is salary relations is already closed and our budget is set for the year. So we don't have the opportunity to replace those benefits for our employees. And whether or not you call it a perk, to take something away from an employee who has had it for over a decade with very little warning is a huge detriment to our staff. We talk a lot about wanting to keep teachers and bring new teachers to our district. How can they trust a board that's like, this is just a perk, we no longer think you get it?
Okay, so in other words, without answering a question, the answer is no, it will not affect the negotiated benefits and salary of any of the staff.
You can twist it however you'd like, Trustee Alexander. The answer is the life insurance benefit that is offered by WSBA will not be available if we do not renew our membership. It's not been negotiated this year because it's not been an issue, nor was it brought to salary relations. As Trustee Chairs mentioned, we've had it for decades. We were not asked to renegotiate it. It was already in place.
Trustee Miller, if you want clear, and I'm not speaking for the board or salary relations, no, that is not a negotiated item. It has never had to be in the past because this was offered through someone else. I would argue going forward, if we're not going to give them this opportunity through WSBA, it should come to salary relations as a negotiated item. But again, timing wise, we don't have the ability to do that for our staff. And again, my role here, I view, is to protect our staff and advocate for them. And I don't feel like that's what this is. We're not doing what's best for our staff in this instance if we vote to get rid of WSBA.
Madam Chair? If I
Yes.
may. I just want to make sure I understand the relationship between WSBA and the insurance provider. I actually, a lifetime ago, worked in insurance and I was an agent. If my client severed their relationship with me, their policy did not terminate and they didn't lose the ability to continue to pay their premiums and enjoy the benefits of that policy. So I guess my question is WSBA the insurance provider or are they the agent? Because if they're just the agent, then really the number of staff members who should lose their insurance benefits ought to be zero, assuming the premiums continue to be paid.
Trustee Ruler, I've had the pleasure of sitting on multiple insurance committees. And as a general rule, the larger number of people you have, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, because it is, the more people you have on a policy, the better your prices are, right? So we could probably negotiate life insurance independently as a district, but my guess would be those amounts would be significantly higher because we didn't have the benefit of that bulk pricing through WSBA.
And forgive me, but my question is a little more laser focused than that. I'm just focused on if I'm a staff member and I have an insurance policy in my file cabinet that is in today in effect and in force. If this board was to vote to not continue membership with the WSBA, my policy continues to remain. So if I'm one of the individual staff members that has taken advantage of it and has a policy through WSBA, I'm not losing my policy. Now, subsequent staff members, if they wanted to take advantage of that in the future, wouldn't have that avenue. I shouldn't say they wouldn't be barred. They basically would not have WSBA available as an agent. So that's an important distinction. I just didn't want to let it go by.
Madam Chair, it would be all right to have Holly Lara come up and address that specific question.
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to address as well.
Well, Brian, why don't we go ahead and defer to you, and then Ms. Lara, if we have additional questions, is that okay? She's happy to hand it to you, Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is incorrect that the employee would be able to retain their policy. What they have is they are part of a group life policy through WSBA as a broker for New York Life. And the class certificate specifically states that the district must be a member of WSBA for them to continue to be eligible for the group life policy. So at the time the district discontinues membership in WSBA, the district is no longer eligible to participate in that policy. So the policy does terminate. However, New York Life does offer the opportunity for the individual to convert their policy from a part of the group policy to an individual policy. And New York Life has indicated that the individual policy would be available at a much significantly higher cost to the individual. Part of that is the difference between how a group life policy and individual policies are underwritten. There would be the possibility that individuals would be subject to independent medical reviews in that conversion process. For the determination of the risk associated with the individual policy. And so an individual that has a higher health risk would certainly encounter a higher premium rate. So they would have the opportunity to continue a benefit, but it would be the conversion from a group life policy to an individual policy, which would require specific underwriting for each individual for which that happens, which would mean a medical review for each individual participating in an individual policy.
Yeah. Mr. Farmer, do these policies vary in insured amount, or is there a ceiling with this particular group policy? Is there a ceiling in the amount that individual staff members can apply for?
Madam Chair, Trustee Gollard, it is a flat benefit for the individuals. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that is, but it is a single benefit to each employee. It's not variable amounts that they apply for.
Okay, and is that okay? So, and I'm going to admit, I'm in Wyoming, so I'm uncertain of what Wyoming's laws are when it comes to this. But if you're talking about $20,000, I've never heard of an insurance company that would require a medical screening for a $20,000 policy. And is this, would this fall under the category of AD&D, accidental death and dismemberment, or is this is, I think you said it was a whole life policy. Is that correct?
Term.
It is together. There is an AD&D coverage as well as a term life.
Thank you.
So do you know the difference then of like if you were to tell a staff member, so we both know their insurance is canceled. Now they have the opportunity to file as an individual policy. Do you know the amount they'd have to pay?
Mr. Farmer, you said the increase in premium could be substantial. Do you have a number for that?
No, I do not. That is specific from employee to employee. Just our conversation with New York Life is that they anticipate that it would be a substantial increase. That's what they've told us. I'm not certain if you can convert with New York Life to a individual term. I believe you would have to go to individual whole life policy with New York Life. So if you're looking to convert to an individual term policy, I believe you would have to look for separate coverage, but I'm not positive on that case. All I can say is that in our discussion with New York Life, we've talked with them about the possibility of individuals converting, asked that question of what would it cost an individual They said, we can't tell you that. It would be specific to the individual, and it would be substantially higher is what they told us.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Farmer. I certainly am not going to expect you to try to be a representative for New York Life. So thank you for what you do now.
Chairman Mueller, I don't know if this is pertinent or helpful, but I do know one of our current employees who is looking for that as a retiree, an equivalent right now, and this seems, crazy to me, but as retirement age, was moving from $79 a month to $7,500 a year. So, I mean, I think that's on the highest term possible, but obviously would be increased because of our pool. I mean, I think we can just go with the number of employees in the state versus the number of employees at Goshen County. Our pool is going to be smaller, and therefore the savings and the increase would be a little bit higher.
I have one more thing.
Sure.
I apologize. I don't want to do this all day, but just the final thing that I want to say is I do serve on the policy committee, and WSBA's input and help with that has been extraordinarily valuable. I think we had, remind me the number, dozens this year of new policies set forth by the legislature that we had to review and redo as our district. And without that information coming from WSBA, I think it would put us at a serious disadvantage. So that alone, I think, is pretty phenomenal, the service they provide.
All right. Are we to a point now that someone's interested in making a motion?
I would move to reconsider approving our membership with the WSBA. Is that how it should be worded? I'm
Sure. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I think it would just be the same motion from the last meeting, word for word.
I don't know what that is.
So with what Trustee Goulart has advised, and I would agree, the motion can be very simple as to approve the WSBA membership for the 26-27 school year. Is that fair?
Okay.
Is the board in agreement that that's an okay way to handle it? I'm not hearing any no's, and I got a thumbs up. So does that make sense?
To approve
The WSBA membership.
WSBA membership for the upcoming academic year.
Yes, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I appreciate the discussion so far. Okay. All those in favor of approving the continued membership with WSBA for the 26-27 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Maureen needs to see hands. All those in, yeah, that's fair. That is absolutely fair. All those in favor of approving the WSBA membership, please signify by raising your hand. And all those opposed, please raise your hand. Trustee Alexander, did you vote?
Not yet,
I'm sorry?
not yet.
Okay. Do we have an abstention?
I do.
And can you please state the basis of your abstention?
I don't believe I have to.
You actually do under the statute, and I've sent that to you previously via email.
Well, I know you said that, but I don't see where it says I have to.
Okay. I'm not going to fight with you, Trustee Alexander. You either let the voters know what
Well,
you're
that's
doing or
fine.
you don't.
I will say, because I don't believe this is still a legal motion, or a proper motion, I believe is what it would be called. And I believe that you're trying to remove our votes and make us a 6-person board instead of a 9. And that's why I abstain, because I don't believe it's a legal or a proper motion.
Okay, with that, the motion carries. All right, Mr. Farmer, we are done discussing that. We really appreciate your time for popping on. Again, I didn't realize you were going to be available to do that, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the board. We look forward to continuing to work with you.
All right, next on the agenda is to set a date in July for the superintendent mid-year evaluation. This is the most painful process to find a date. Do you prefer, Mr. Kramer, that we literally discuss dates right now, or should we try the poll process?
We can do the poll if everybody, a lot of board members have been able to do that. If that works, great. I can throw out a lot of dates and you can just say your availability. Seeing thumbs up, so we'll go ahead and do that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I address something?
Of course.
Quite often when we are having discussion, there are two board members who have side discussions, and it is very distracting, and I don't hear well anyway. And I am going to respectfully ask that we do our best to respect each other and not have these side conversations during regular other conversations and business conversations. I would appreciate that.
I appreciate that, Trustee Steinbach. I'm picking it up too. I don't know if it's coming through a speaker or what. So if we could just be cognizant of that, that would be fantastic. And again, that's to try and make sure that the public is able to hear all of us. So it's kind of tricky with the speakers on at all time. So Mr. Kramer, if he's agreeable, we'll send out a poll for dates in July for the superintendent mid-year evaluation. Just a reminder, as Trustee Goulart, I think was part of a motion, was to come with 2 or 3 objective things that we can discuss about our expectations of Mr. Kramer in evaluating him. The last thing, just very, very briefly, that I want to touch on because it was brought up in public comment is the situation out at Yoder. So I did want to make the board aware of the fact that the day after the board meeting, when it was brought to our attention, I made a phone call to JD Williams. Mr. Williams has been speaking with the DEQ, EPA, and the Department of Health. Couple of days later, the DEQ came out to Southeast and they have installed a sensor on the property so that we can be monitoring the air quality at the school as well. There were discussions during the town hall meeting this week, I think it was this week, that potentially the Yoder Fire Department would be willing to purchase an additional sensor for the football field. They're about $1,500. So that discussion is also occurring. The plan, as Mr. Anderson mentioned, is to have a kind of an open house type forum where the DEQ and Department of Health will visit the school and answer any questions and present the data that is being analyzed as to the air quality out in Yoder and at Southeast. So we can dispel any concerns and answer questions that are held by the parents, staff, students, whomever. So very appreciative of Mr. Williams for doing that. Yes, Trustee Steinbach.
With regard to the evaluation, we're going to use the same form that we've used. We're just going to do it as a group. Is that correct? And then will we have an opportunity to, as a group, discuss if we want to move to a different form, or is this just for the evaluation itself? And
yeah, so great question. We have been kicking around the idea for longer than I care to admit about revamping the evaluation process. We've just been distracted with all of the other things that are going on. I think there is a desire to change it, but I don't anticipate that this work session to evaluate Mr. Kramer is the appropriate time to do that. That meeting will solely be focused on the evaluation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that at some point we can maybe revisit this again, because it's just that form is just not accurate in my opinion.
I wonder if we put it on the agenda for the August meeting. Thoughts?
It would be at top of mind in terms of what might make it easier.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It is something we just keep kicking down the road. Yes, Trustee Chairs. And it's Trustee Chairs' favorite.
A special meeting to do the evaluation, and then we will meet with the superintendent to give him the evaluation.
That's the intent, correct? So we as a group will complete the evaluation and discuss our evaluation, and then we will present that evaluation to Mr. Kramer.
Thank you. We've tried to do that in executive session before meetings before and rarely have enough time to.
Yeah, that's why we're going to do just a special meeting to just focus on that.
Thank you.
Does that work for you? Okay. All right. With that, we are adjourned. Everyone have a great day.